Okay, it says that we are live. I'm hoping that means we're actually live. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie, which you probably already know, and this is Chris, which you also have probably already met him. Um, we're just here to have a little chat, like a coffee chat. I actually do have some tea this time, just to talk about how we got into data, what our journeys look like, what our jobs look like now that we're both data analysts. And since we're also both content creators in the data space, we kind of talk about a lot of data topics pretty often. Um, so I thought we could also talk about that. If you were here last time, we had a lot of technical issues. I did switch my streaming platform onto a new one, so hopefully no technical issues this time. And hopefully we can keep up with the chat. So if you guys have things that you'd like us to talk about or anything, drop it in there. Yeah, and we'll give it a shot. So anyways, hi, Chris. How are you doing
How's it
today?
going, Annie? Pretty good. I was gonna make some tea. I've literally like I used to be a big coffee person, but then I started switching over to tea because I felt like coffee gave me like crazy, like it got me a lot of energy, but like the crash was like so bad. So I did like
Mhm.
my fiance and I did like an advent calendar for this month of like each day it's a different like bag of tea. Doesn't do that, but then my crock pot decided to like all fall apart at once, so I didn't get a chance to do that. But I'm doing good. Hopefully, you're having a great day yourself.
You will be able to view this later if anybody can't make it for the whole thing. Um,
Wow, that's
yeah,
cool. That's cool
so
that thing pops up like that.
I
That's
could
pretty
pop it
cool.
up. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
Just
cool.
try that out for the first time right now. Yeah, so I know that you posted a lot about kind of your journey and stuff, but what would you say, like, what was kind of the first like thing that sparked? Like, can you like remember this first spark of like, so you were a teacher, right? So what kind of
Mhm.
sparked, oh, maybe data analytics is my next move. Like what kind of inspired that for you?
Um, I mean, to be completely honest, it kind of happened out of, I wouldn't say out of nowhere. It led, I mean, I guess I'll start from where it like started. I've always had a huge fascination with data, numbers, anything like that. My dad's side of the family, they ran like an accounting firm for many years, so I'm always around that. I played baseball through college, so in that sport, very data and analytic driven. So I always like was always used to, if you want to throw this fast, you got let's look at the data, how you're doing each day. So I've always used to like using it, visualizations of charts. And then it kind of came about when so yeah, it started in the beginning of September when my fiance and I were sitting down, and I realized I was like, you know what, I'm getting burnt out from teaching. And I've only taught for 1.25 years. Like, it wasn't really anything too crazy, but just in general, like completely burning me out. And I just felt like I had skills besides teaching that I could really offer. So I was like, okay, like what could actually fit me? So we were looking at more like software engineering. I want to see how some like coding went. So I started doing that for about like a week or two, and I was liking it. Like it was fine, but I genuinely felt like this is still like not what I'm like. This is not what it's gonna be. Like there's no way I could do this for a career. So as I thought about, it, I'm like I like the coding aspect, but I knew that was not my strength. So I'm like, oh, I'm really good with numbers. I'm very good with visualizations. I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. What do you call it? And then I just did research. I was like, oh, it's a data analyst. I'm like, oh, that just makes sense. Like, literally, you're analyzing
Yeah.
data. So I think that kind of led me from trying something else that led me into data. And I just think because of my love of numbers, creating visualizations really led me to that. And I was like, this field actually fits everything I'm about. Like this literally is who I am as a person. I do like this a lot, especially while teaching. Always crunching numbers through test scores or standardized test scores, and always seeing, comparing classes, comparing to previous years. That I was already doing that, but without me realizing. So I really think that's where it hit. Is it really came out of like a snap of a finger. Like I was talking with her, and I was like, "Well, what fits this?" And she's like, "Well, that's something with data." And right there and then it just clicked. Like it literally
That's
happened out of
cool.
nowhere. So it kind
Yeah,
of
that's
like I
cool.
said, started with something else that led into analytics though.
Yeah,
um,
that must have
that
been
came
must have
out.
been really exciting. I definitely was would never have considered myself a numbers person or a data person.
Mhm.
Like I kind of realized later in life, I'm not old, but like more recently in life that
Mhm.
I like logic a lot. Like I kind of win when I play board games pretty consistently. Like
Mhm.
I'm good at logic, which is what data analytics definitely is. But if
Mhm.
you had asked me like, will you ever get a job like crunching numbers or anything? I'd be like, no. I
Mhm.
actually really enjoyed geometry in high school, but algebra? Nope. And I
I
took
was the complete
physics in
opposite.
college, and I
Literally the
just
complete opposite.
barely passed. Like, actually, I did well in my class, but I had to study super hard because I
Mhm.
didn't have the required calculus class, but I sweet talked my way into the class because I needed it as a prerequisite. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I was not really, I was not really much of a numbers person. So you found this
Mhm.
thing that you felt like, okay, this is really it. And then how did you decide, like, so you just did courses, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I started with the Google data analytics course, mainly
Same.
because with my my situation is I didn't have the luxury of uh, having a lot of, let's say, finances on me to go into like a boot camp
Same.
or a college. And even like they do have, you can take out loans or do flexible options. Like I'm working very hard on, I'm doing a lot. I'm very far along paying off my original student loans, and I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to go through that again, like no matter what. And I feel like if I have to change a career and go back to school again, like that's a no go for me. Like that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So I realized,
So
like,
money
I'm
was
gonna
really the
take this
main
Google
driver
course.
for you,
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I mean, that's how I am as a
for
person. I
like
always
that's
try
why
to
you chose
see.
that path.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. Because I was like, you know what, like I don't want to put a lot of money into something and it doesn't work out because I don't
Hmm.
have anything to back that up. Like I
Yeah.
can't take.
Same.
Unfortunately, I couldn't take much of a risk. Should I say, right?
Yep.
So the Google course
Yep.
was great because it gave a 7-day free trial. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see how it looks, and then even after that, it was $39 a month. So I'm like, okay, it's
Hmm.
almost like a challenge. Like if you get this done quick, you don't have to pay as much. And I felt like, you know what, that's worth it. Like I will do that. And if it works
Yeah.
out great,
Same.
I spent money for a good cost. And if it doesn't work out, I'll be totally okay. So I felt like I did that, and I was like, you know what, like if it's gonna work, it has to be through this course. And after I did that course, I just did a lot of researching on LinkedIn of like what other people did, and just trial and error,
Hmm.
like what I liked, what I didn't like. Like originally, something like Udemy did not
Yeah.
click right away with me,
Yep.
but something like DataCamp did. But like I just kind of was searching around. I'm like, okay, I just need to learn these skills. Like someone has to just.
Was
I
it
was
just
just
like
trying
the
to look
teaching
around.
style? Like why
Yes,
one or the other clicked with you?
yes, definitely. I'm not a big. I am very impatient sometimes,
Mm.
and watching a bunch of videos can be a little tough. Now there are some Udemy courses that I'm doing now through my employer that, like, I'm doing a Tableau one that's extremely hands-on, which is great.
Mm.
But there's some of them that are like you just have to watch and take notes, and I'm not that. I don't learn the
Yeah.
best through
Neither
that
am
way.
I.
I'm very hands-on. I need to like let me figure
Hmm.
it out, and if I mess up, I'll figure it out eventually. But that's why like something like Data Camp was good because there wasn't really too many videos. It's like, hey, you're gonna do it a couple times and then boom, do it on your own. Okay, let's do the next one, and it's kind of like that rinse repeat cycle that I kind of learn the best with.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like I think relate that with sports, like with baseball. Like if I had to train, I had to do something over and over and over again to then get good at it. So I felt the same way. Like
Hmm.
if I'm gonna get this, I literally need to do SQL, especially SQL, like over and over and over, and then I can move on. Do it over and over,
Yeah.
move on. I just felt that was probably my best way to learn. But yeah, it was just kind of trial and error, see what was clicking, what wasn't. But obviously, like I also was not going to spend crazy amount of money learning on some of these different platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So I'm really glad that like I've actually never heard anyone. You said was it free? Was it what did you say the platform was? Free
For
Code Camp?
um,
The one that you said was good, the hands-on one? What was the name of it?
so I mean, well, you
The
brought
one
back
that you took.
actually when I, so
No, which one
Data
did you
Camp.
the one that you just said, Data Camp. And you said they have the good
Yeah.
hands-on kind of really,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really cool because I think that giving you that hands-on experience prepares you to make a portfolio because like as data
Mm-hmm.
analysts, we need to be able to problem solve on our own. And so if they were to like give you these videos and you were like coding along with them, coding along, like
Mm-hmm.
that's fine for learning, but like if you never move beyond that, then you're never gonna be able to problem solve. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem that I will hear people say they took a course, but now they're trying to do a project and they're like, I have no idea how to do anything. I'm like, well, you just took a whole course. Like, did you learn how to do something in the
Mm-hmm.
course? Which a
Yeah.
lot of times it's just like, imposter syndrome. They're just afraid. And I tell people go back into the course,
Mm-hmm.
take a list of all the functions you learned, and then just try and apply those to your portfolio project. But having done it
Mm-hmm.
like hands on in the course, I think like really makes a big difference. So then did
Mm-hmm.
you also then go and build a portfolio after that?
So yeah, and I think what you just mentioned too was a really good point. Like with me, um, because I am like hands on, I went through before I did my project. I kind of did something in the middle because I was lacking at that time confidence in what I was doing and confidence I didn't know exactly everything I was doing at that moment. I wanted to find guided projects that like, okay, I want to make something, but I'll take the time to like actually just kind of like copy someone and just see what's going on. So like for example, like Alex Freeberg, Alex Analyst on YouTube, he has a SQL and Tableau guided project, and that it's an hour and a half video, and it took me because I had to slow it down to half speed. I'm like, okay, this is like really intense for me right now. I need to slow down, and yeah, it took like 4 or 5 hours. But afterwards, one, I felt, yeah, even though I followed them along and I did the work, like I physically did it, right? It felt good to do. And two, I used that to when I made my own project. I'm like, okay, so this SQL query right here means that. So if I see this
Yeah.
in this data set, and that's exactly what I was doing, and it literally I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like this is literally amazing. Like I'm now like it started to understand for me like you don't have to know every single thing. You don't need to be an expert at every single part of it. You just have to have an idea. You have to know what you're looking for, of what to do. And I think because taking my time through a guided project like that helped me understand. And he did a great job after typing it. He didn't just type it and move on. He's typing and he explained like, this is why I'm doing this. This is going to lead to that. And I'm like, okay, okay. And then like I would mess up on my end. I thought I'm like, oh, I know this. I'm going to go ahead. And I'm like, well, wait, no, I don't. No, I don't. And then it's like, you just start learning. That's how I learned. And I felt like that guided project really helped me. But then also when it came to making my own, he said in his video, hey, use this on your resume if you want. My mentality was I'm not going to have something on my resume that a ton of other people have done.
You
I mean,
didn't
I always
make.
want to have
Yeah.
something on my resume that no one else has done, like a very unique
Hmm.
type project. So
Hmm.
I think with me, I took my time and found data sets I actually could like really dive into, find issues and problems, and actually find ways to solve it instead of just doing I don't know, say like I don't know, say like DoorDash sales thing and just throw it out there. Like I want to actually like find something unique, really take my time, and I felt confident with that because when I went into my interview, I could be super connected to that project, and when I talk it over
Yeah.
with the team, it'll come out well, and it helped me with that because instead of just doing something I wasn't so interested in, like I was super intrigued by everything I was doing, and it came out really well in my interview.
Yeah, there's a couple things there that I want to talk about. First, I
Mm-hmm.
think that how you said like how you have it for your next project. I think there's two
Yeah.
things there. One, I think that having like a model to kind of work off of, it can be very hard to create things out of thin air. So to create SQL
Mm-hmm.
queries, to create a Tableau workbook out of thin air, when you really have no examples, good examples of like beginner ones, because you can go on the internet, you can look up super advanced stuff, but having a
Mm-hmm.
model for it. But then beyond that, like emotionally, like you must have felt emotionally like, okay, I did do it. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Did you feel that kind of like emotional, like relief and release of like, oh, you know what, I can do this. Like, did you feel that?
Yeah, that's actually really funny you said that because I think I said that to someone the other day. Is that's the moment where I got confidence that I could do this. Like that literally when I did my first project, and it wasn't even anything crazy. Like looking at it, it's still like the everything I did in it, the visualizations, the queries are not that. They're very basic, very basic. But at that moment, I looked it over. I typed up my article on LinkedIn, and I looked it over, and I'm like, you know what, Chris? Like you did really good. Like you did
You
really
are a
good.
data
And
analyst. You
yeah,
are a data
that's
analyst.
all. Yeah, and that truly, and I did like I still at times lack confidence, but that's literally when it turned. Is like you made that. Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
I didn't care how basic it was. I don't care. I made it. And you know what? It got me a job. So you know what? It
Yeah,
must. That's it's that's right. That's, I kind of think about sometimes is sometimes people get so caught up in the technical aspect. Like it's okay to not be an expert at it. Like everything I'm doing right now at my job, I will have to continue to learn for a little bit more time. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's a fact that I'm interested and intrigued and curious about the work I'm going to be doing helped me explain it better. And I felt really good when I was typing up my article that I went really in depth with the wording. And I relied on that because I knew I didn't have the technical skills. So I had to rely on other aspects to get me that far. And it really helped. And I posted it and I was like, I don't even care if no one even likes it or I don't care because I feel like $1,000,000. I feel really
I
good
did it.
about myself. And at that moment, I'm like, you know what? This can be a career for me. Like this truly can be
Mhm.
a career. And I think that moment forward really pushed me a lot in many different aspects along my journey.
That's great. Yeah, I think another thing that I was thinking about when you're talking about that is how you were saying about one, like, okay, I guess there were two more things. So one, how once you did it, then you kind of had this language to use. And I think that's really
Mhm,
important. I talk to people about this often. When you decide to switch careers and you're not a data analyst, and then you decide to become a data analyst, you probably don't
mhm,
have anyone in your life who is a data analyst. So at that point in
yeah.
time,
Mhm,
you start thinking about it, right? Like how to run SQL
mhm,
queries, like all of these things you start thinking about, but you're not talking about it. And so
mhm,
the if you just take a course and whatever and then get into your interview, the first
mhm.
time you ever have a conversation actually about somebody with data is in your interview, which you don't want. And so by doing the
You're
projects,
spot
I've had
on. You
multiple
are
people
so
say to
spot
me,
on with this. Oh my god. You're so
I've had
spot.
multiple people
Like
say to
seriously,
me,
you're saying
yeah.
so many great things that no one talks about. That you really are touching on the exact topics that are not mentioned that much. That's I didn't mean to cut off it. Oh my gosh, that is so true. Like that yes, like
Yeah,
saying it out loud, I felt like a robot. I'm like, oh gosh, select from this. I'm like, oh gosh, this doesn't sound right. That's so right. That you're so right. Thank you for saying
you
that
get the
because that's such a
vocabulary and everything for
great
it.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, it's like such a benefit to be able to like I've talked to multiple people who said that they had a portfolio, but when
Mhm.
they're not even sure that their employers even looked at their portfolio when they did apply for a job.
Mhm.
Yet those
Mhm.
same people, same thing happened to me. They found that once they had portfolio projects, they did get better responses to their applications and
Oh
in
yeah.
interviews. And my theory is because if you do a portfolio project, when you get into an
Mhm.
interview and they say, "Can you use SQL?" You're no longer
Mhm.
saying, "Yeah, I took a course on SQL." You're saying, "Yeah, here's a project that I just did." And you can talk kind of interestedly like, "Yeah." Like I think when I was working on projects, I actually I spent a month learning Python, which was a total detour, unnecessary
Mhm.
use of my time. But then I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I need to actually get some SQL into my portfolio." So I went and I found this Python script analyzing diversity in the Oscars, like the scripts
Mhm.
of Oscars nominated films, and I tried to
Mhm.
reverse engineer that into SQL queries. And I remember in more than one interview, I was able, and at the time I had my TikTok and I was already on LinkedIn and I was writing my blog posts. So I didn't have any data analysts in my life, but I was talking about it
Mhm.
with people a lot in the Discord.
Mhm.
My gosh, so many avenues. So I got to my interview and they said, "Can you use SQL?" And I said, "I actually just did this project and I was using these queries and I was having a hard time with this." And I don't think
Mhm.
they needed to just waste their time like looking through my project because it's at that point in time, it's not
Mhm.
really about the skills anyway. It's about your critical thinking skills, which I had
Mhm.
on display by having done it. So
Mhm.
I agree with you in like having done it and like helping helps you talk about it. But I do have one point where I wouldn't say that I disagree with you, but I think I have a different opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people say they want to have these unique projects that they're really interested in. And I think it's an excellent idea to do things that you're
Mm-hmm.
interested in and passionate about and do portfolio projects around this because I totally agree with you that when you get to the
Mm-hmm.
interview, what's really important to display is, hey, I'm really interested in this. And you can do that when you do it on a data set you love. However,
Mm-hmm.
for people just starting out in their first portfolio projects, I tell them do not try and reinvent the wheel. Do not try and be original. My first
Mm-hmm.
portfolio project was the Google Data Analytics Capstone project. And I will be honest with you, I went into the LinkedIn group and I searched through and I found other people who had done the capstone project. And I was like, what the heck are these people doing? And then I took
Mm-hmm.
pieces of that and then I made my own because I had
Mm-hmm.
such a hard time creating, like, how can I create all of this stuff out of thin air?
It
So
is a lot.
I didn't
It is
copy
a
it,
lot.
but it gave me an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got stuck, I was able to see how other people had problem solved through it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that eventually it is a great idea to work towards like new original ideas, but in your first data sets, I think it's excellent to use data that has been regularly used and to have other projects so you can see when other people run into
Mm-hmm.
problems, how did they troubleshoot? You're probably gonna be able to find an answer on the internet. And,
Mm-hmm.
what ideas do they have? How did they put this together? I think that a good example of that is the Maven challenges. Maven Analytics puts out free challenges every month and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Tableau consultant. I work with Tableau every single day. I still look over all of the finalists every month to see what they did in their dashboards because I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that was a really cool idea. I really love how they did that. And so, and I keep trying to do these projects and then running out of time to submit them by the deadline. But if I were new to making a portfolio piece, I
Mm-hmm.
would go into their one of their completed challenges. I would get the data, and then I would look at what other people had done when I got stuck, and I would use that to kind of help guide. And then I'd say, hey, where's everyone missing? What's everyone missing here? What other
Mm-hmm.
unique things can I find from this data? But at least having that framework would help. So anyway, some people had asked in the chat about feeling clueless about getting started on portfolio projects, and I'm hoping that that answered your questions. Chris, somebody had asked about how your the Wall Street Journal article. Let me see if I can find it.
Let's
How
see.
did that come to be? Here it is. How did this come to be?
Um, so yeah, I mean, just keep it short and easy, which all it is I got a message on LinkedIn from a person that saw one of my posts, and she was writing an article on people transitioning jobs based on the should I say economy, which my story doesn't 100% align with it, but still fits the narrative.
We'll roll. We'll roll with it.
So she's like, yeah. So yeah. I mean, of course, I'm trying to also be in an industry that can, continue to grow, which that is true. Like teaching is just teaching. It's not very adaptive, has not been adaptive in a long time, and it's not really going to change much from a salary perspective or a social perspective. It's going to be kind of the same thing. While getting into tech is always going to continue, while it goes through ups and downs at times, it will continue to expand. I mean, so yeah, I did fit in that. And she kind of brought up, is like, hey, are you interested? Do you have some time for questions? I'm like, yeah. So we talked for like 25, 30 minutes, asked me questions, and she let me know the next week that my part is going to be in the story. And that was really good. That was it. It's pretty short and easy.
Cool.
I've been approached by, yeah, it literally came out of nowhere, like a message out of nowhere. And I'm like, to me, as a person, Jersey, growing up near New York, I'm like, yeah, I want to answer any question, anything you have, please just let me know. I'm like, what time works for you? Now, in an hour, just tell me when, and I'll do it. So
2
that
a.m.
literally
I
came
don't
out of
care.
nowhere, and I have to think, like LinkedIn has been, uh, it's helped so much. It really has. Like I'm extremely grateful for everything with it because literally, um, it's helped me in so many ways. Like opportunities, still get opportunities. Wall Street Journal. I've had people from like the Google ask me questions from the course. Like I'm very appreciative of it, and it's been awesome. And I just, like I said, just literally out of nowhere. I didn't really do anything. It just saw a post, messaged me, and that was it. So, I always appreciate everybody for following along and being a part of my journey to allow something like that to happen.
Yeah, LinkedIn can be a very powerful networking tool. And I feel like I see this, there's this wave right now of content creators in the data space talking about how LinkedIn is so beneficial. And
Hmm.
something that I try to kind of delineate to people that I talk to is that you don't need to be a content creator to benefit from LinkedIn. And so, like, if
Hmm.
you look at the way that I'm creating content or the way that you are creating content, Chris, you might say,
Hmm.
okay, here's how I need to create content on LinkedIn. But we are creating content as content creators. Like, we're trying to
Hmm.
share our stories and things that would be helpful to other people. But that's not necessarily what it would look like if you were just trying to create content to build your network and to get a job. And so I tell people, like, if you're really primarily using LinkedIn to get a job and you're not here to be a content creator, which you do not need to be, um,
Hmm.
post about what you're doing, post about what you're learning, and
Hmm.
use relevant hashtags. Like, I posted a post about how you can perform. I was like, did you know that you can do data cleaning in Tableau? And I posted about it, and I hashtagged it with Tableau, did not go
Hmm.
overloaded with hashtags, just a couple relevant ones. And I think one or two companies, I know that two companies eventually found me about Tableau. So one or two
Hmm.
companies found me because of that post, came up from one
Hmm.
of the people in their company on their feed. And they saw me talking knowledgeably about using Tableau, and they thought, okay, maybe this would be a
Hmm.
good person to get on our team. And so at that point, like, when I put that post up, it was with the intention. I'm like, yes, I'd like people to know you can perform data cleaning in Tableau. That is helpful. But my main purpose for posting that
Hmm.
was it would be really cool if an employer saw this because it shows
Hmm.
that I know how to use
Hmm.
Tableau. And then that did happen. So
Yeah,
that would be kind of the difference that I would recommend.
that's a good
So
point.
one thing that I'm
That's
really
a really good
interested
point.
to hear from you on is now that okay, so a question that I got multiple times when I was interviewing for remote jobs is,
Hmm.
how do you feel about remote work? Like, if you've never done a remote job before,
Ooh.
how do you feel about a remote job? Do you like it? Do you think you
Oh
would be
man.
productive? And I had a lot of extrapolations on how thought I would feel about it, but now that I'm at a
Hmm.
remote job, so what's your answer now? Like, how do you feel about remote work? Do you still feel productive? Like, tell me about it.
Oh man. This is a good one. This is a good one.
You're cracking the knuckles.
Me, me as a person who I'd say I'm more of like an introvert. I do like having my own space. Like I could be very social. I do like talking to people. I really enjoy it. I like going out, like especially at school. I was always a person going to everyone's room talking and whatnot. But then there's randomly times where I'm like, I want to just be by myself and just like do my work. And I think that with remote work, I do enjoy where I could focus a lot more. There's not as much distractions besides my three cats who want to be running around all day. That's the only distraction. Um, I have a desk here that I probably would not have at an office. It's much more comfortable. I could put things where I want. I could kind of more flexibility with anything I really do. Um, and like I said, you're right because I've never really had an office job before, and two, I've never even had a remote job. So I'm learning a lot as I go. I thought typically like if I have to work these hours, I must be here. Lunch, I could do that, but I have to come right back. Like I had no idea what was going on, and it just seems like the flexibility of working of like as long as you're around at certain times, that's what's most important. You know what I mean? Like you can't be gone from like these 2 hours of the day because these are the most important times. Besides that, like just make sure you're getting your work done. And I'm like, are you sure? This doesn't sound like
Is this a
like
trap?
I feel like there's a catch. I feel like there's a catch. So I've learned that like the flexibility is something that I really wanted, especially coming from teaching where I had to drive into Philadelphia, which is only 15 miles away, but it would take about an hour to get there and back. So like I really
Mhm.
emphasize being home, being, it's helped my mental health an absolute ton. And it's only been a month, but I feel I am way more productive. Just getting stuff done around the house, or if I have to go get anything done, it's done with. I could go on a lunch really quick to go do something. I have more time on my hands. That's really what it comes down to, time. And I do
Yeah.
enjoy those aspects, but I will say, I guess the downfalls, I guess, and that if I had to say a couple, well, one, not having that human interaction is tough for a person like me, or I'm always used to having people around me, whether it was at school or before that when I was doing my sports training. I've always had coworkers around me at all times. So being alone a lot can get a little tough, right? But at the end of the day, I understand why I'm working remote, because it's, for a much better work life balance. Um, and I will say also, I'm not used to, um, because you're home, you have to really make sure you get outside and walk around a little bit, or do some kind of, exercise, because, coming from teaching, I was on my feet all the time. Like, all the time I was on my feet. I'd be burning 1,000 calories just by working. And then now at home, I'm like I definitely know, like the first week I was kind of like, oh, this is good. I don't have to really do anything. I relax. Now I'm like, oh man, I gotta get on my bike. I gotta do something. I gotta do something to get my body moving. So those are
Hmm.
only two things of that human interaction, but like that's not the biggest con. I would say the one part is like the energy perspective. Like, always feel like I need to make sure I get walks in, or go on my bike, or do something. As long as I do that, like, I feel amazing. And I think those are just two things that with remote, I expected, and but the pros outweigh the cons significantly, like just by a mile,
By a
by a mile.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love being in my own space. My boss the other day was like, I feel like 90% of the calls that I'm on with you, like just the two of us, you're
Mhm.
preparing food in some way. Like, why, what was I like, why are you always preparing food? I'm like, because I ignore my body cues all day. And then I like come heads up for a meeting,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, "Oh, I haven't eaten all day." So I
Mhm.
don't do that on, like, client calls, but if it's just my boss and I'll be, like, grating
Mhm.
cheese onto chips or something. But I really yeah, I really like working I like being in my own space, I control the temperature,
Mhm.
even though I keep it lower than I wish I would.
Mhm.
And, like, I control the music, and,
Mhm.
if I need to, like, lay down, like, days that I have migraine, I can go and lay down. I really like that. It's also just, with the travel, it's super nice. Like
Mhm.
coming out of like, teaching and healthcare around the holidays, I actually was talking to somebody who they said that they don't get days off for the holidays, but they are encouraged to use their PTO days for the
That's
holidays.
terrible.
And so, like, that was ridiculous to me. Like, but that's like the
Mhm.
world that we have both come out of now, and then now
Mhm.
here we are in this, and it's like, yeah, of course you're not working on the holidays. And like if you're
Yeah.
traveling, it's like, okay, you still getting your work done when you're traveling? Cool. That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You're right about,
that's
especially
that's
about
really nice. You're kind of newer at your
the
job, so you probably haven't traveled yet, have you?
no, my fiance and I were looking to move in, a little less than a year from now, I'd say. So, like, that's good thing you brought that up, because, like, I made a post like last week about, I went in August um to do that similar thing. I wanted to go travel somewhere, travel a couple different cities to see how they were, and it was stressful because I had to strategically plan it. I had to budget like crazy, which, I mean, I should anyway, but still, like, it was a point where, like, I couldn't really enjoy my time there as much. But now with
Mhm.
the ability to grab my laptop, and if I want to drive to, I don't know, Tennessee, go explore Nashville, see if I like that area, I can grab my laptop, and I don't have to, if I want to take a day off, I could, or if I just want to work, I can, and save the PTO days. But I mean, it helps a lot. I mean, with teaching, I only got 5 days off. I can only take 5 days off. So it literally, um, it was impossible to do anything. And even with teaching, if you took a day off, it's never a day off. It never ever is, because your sub is going to
Yep.
call you all day with questions, or your admin's going to call you questions. It's never a day off. So I haven't
Mhm.
taken a day off yet with my new job, and that's something I don't really take off too often, but that's
Yeah,
something that I'm
neither
gonna
do
get
I.
used to because I know that my manager's like, so you can take it off the day before we're Christmas weekend. I'm like, no, no, because I
No,
didn't
I
even think
did
about it. He's like,
not.
are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But it's like, he's like, yeah, don't be afraid to say yes. I'm like, I know I'm only used to having 5 days a year. I'm only used
Hmm.
to five. So like, it's super, it's going to have its, I have some things about people say about teachers that really irk me about the whole summers off thing is like, I don't know. Yeah, you get 5 days off a year. Your summer's off, but man, like in those 9.5 months you're working, it feels like you're working an entire year worth. Like it's the amount of work in that your 40-hour week is always a 60-hour week. You do the math, adds up. You're working an hour's worth in those 9.5 months.
Hmm.
So that summer off is never even that relaxing because you're always just thinking about one, I gotta pay my
And you
bills
have to
this summer,
prepare
and
and
then I got
everything.
to, you know, uh, get ready for next school year, and it just it's it's a tough system. But I think now with having the PTO, I have this company which I'm very appreciative of. They're a financial company, so off on all bank holidays and stuff like that. So
Mm.
it's pretty good to have some flexibility and have people who are genuinely just regular people. Like, hey, you want off here, you want off there. It's like it just feels weird, but at the same time, I'm
Yeah,
starting to get used to it and just appreciate normal things. Should I say again?
yeah. Yeah, so how's your job going? If you're at a corporate job, I imagine that you haven't even
Mm-hmm.
started half of your job yet because it takes so long to jump through so many hoops, but
Yeah,
how's it going?
no, it's going great. I'm learning a lot too of because my journey went so fast from it took about a little like 2 months on the dot from when I started to when I got my job offer. So
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
still
really
was what
fast.
yeah, it happened very
That's really
it happened
fast.
a little I'm very I feel I'm grateful. I'll just say that. Very grateful that things just worked out, let's say. But like yeah, with I guess I'm learning too of like what actually goes into this process and just little things like having to deal with IT, which I'm like, I need this on my laptop. Oh, I gotta wait 6 days for it. I'm like, what? Like, this guy. So you have to wait a lot. I'm learning a lot as I go, and especially I came in towards the end of the year, so like they're kind of wrapping up some things, and it's more just like, hey, I'm learning a lot of like simple reports that we're doing, um, more in the simple aspect, nothing too in depth. I'm doing a lot of shadowing, a lot, which I'm very appreciative. My team, they're a very small team, but they always I could ask main point like, hey, do you mind if I just jump in for a little bit? Yeah, come on a call. And I'll just he'll walk. I don't know half the things he's doing. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but you know what? Like, it makes me feel good because I want to be with people who are gonna help me out. And I think it's really great that I do a lot of shadowing. Um, it's really been great with that. But then also we have a meeting. We have like meetings every week where we're discussing what are we working on for the week, what are we doing. And it seems like they're wrapping a lot of things up, but they all went over like, hey, when we come back in January, like this is what we got going on. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
right now at the time of me where I'm trying to get used to operations, how things are done, really. But then when January hits, like I know my workload is it's going to increase by a good amount. Well, I'm excited about. But I think it's great. I came out at this time so I can learn the system, learn how everything's operating instead of being thrown into the fire. And that's kind of like why I went towards more that like the larger company aspect is I didn't still have that confidence of being put into a position, let's say at like a smaller company where, they might need you to do, some work like, their expectations might be a little bit different, right? They might need you to do, you might not be too many people in that department. So you might have to pick up a lot of work right away. Where me, I'm like, I'll take my time. I'll learn. I'll really take my time and just be more realistic in the role I have, which is not probably the more popular choice, but that was just me. And I'm like, I really want to take this this first step and learn properly, so I don't get like burnt out or not enjoy uh, data analysis right away, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So are you using like the kind of typical data tools, like SQL, Excel, Tableau, or are you
Hmm.
also kind of expanding and using like having to learn to use other tools and stuff that is not in the, core curriculum of any courses?
We use yeah, Excel, but mainly SQL and Tableau. Excel and Oracle we use. But like the Excel and Oracle are just used to like take reports from, like we'll use SQL to put back into them. So like I just use simple functions like lookups in Excel, nothing really too in depth with it. But
Hmm.
Tableau, I mean, there's things I'm learning about Tableau that, people always say visualizations. My gosh, there's more than that. There's so much to it. And when I'm doing the shadowing and I'm looking through everything and I'm like, this is really interesting. This is really like, like there's like it's super intriguing and it's visually appealing. Like I really like it. And he's like, oh, you want me to show what this looks like if it was one whole SQL query? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, there's no way to be able to type that all out. It's like, yeah, with Tableau, there's so much more to it and then just making charts. And I'm like, I had no idea. Like I literally had no
Yeah.
idea you could do all that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes everything just way simpler.
Yeah.
And
It's super
yeah, I was like,
powerful.
it is, yeah.
I've had people like say to me that I had some people commenting on my TikTok once that they were like, I like had used the break into tech hashtag, and they're like, well, using Tableau isn't really tech. I was like, that's a really strange
It's
line to
actually
draw. Like, I think
it's intense.
like it's a
There's a lot
technol
to
like
it.
I'm working on my computer and I'm delivering dashboards to it's like whatever. People like to
Mhm.
gatekeep. I don't really care. But I do think that a lot of people don't understand the full, like if you just learn Tableau like at the very basic, like here I'm going to drag a
Mhm.
pill into the view. Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems really easy. And I see why people
Mhm.
think that's super easy. When you learn
Mhm.
about all of the different ways, like like I'm doing constantly writing like date diff functions or like functions that have like a lot of really complicated logic, like if this and this and then this field. And it's almost like if you learn Python, you learn functions, how functions can be inserted into your code. Essentially, when you
Mhm.
write a calculated field, you're almost writing a function that can kind of be inserted in, and then you have to figure out, oh, well, it's going to piece together in this sheet with this one to make this happen, but then in this one, it's going to make
Mhm.
this happen. So it is really powerful. Like you can do a lot with it, but it definitely takes a like it's like a kind of easy thing to get into, but then for you to like start
Mhm.
really using it in a powerful way, it's got this huge learning curve. Like it's very steep. And I
Yeah.
have learned so much from
Yeah.
my boss who he's been using it
Mhm.
regularly for 5 years, every day, consulting,
Mhm.
especially because like I'm a consultant. So I work with a different client like every week, basically, I have a new client
Mhm.
and they have a completely different project. And so it's not like I'm building the same reports out every month. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, it is really cool. So when you get your workload going up, um, do you think you're gonna
Mhm.
have to do presentations? Are you gonna have to like present to different people and like assess their learning styles, or will it be more of an analytical, just, in the numbers job?
If I had to say, um, a little bit of both, more more on the analytical side than presenting. I think that if it's any presenting, because while I'm in compliance and risk, like my role kind of like for right now, our team's doing a little bit of everything kind of. Like they're making a huge more effort to change because we have a lot of systems that are on Excel, but they're really trying to push everything onto Tableau. So we're doing a lot of reporting and a lot of dashboards coming up. Um, so I think to me, really, I think that's also why they kind of like looked at me as like, oh, this guy's been, I mean, he's been doing dashboards. He's been doing what we are going to be doing soon. So I think that helps. So I think the work I'll be doing is something I've already been used to in my projects and my courses.
Yeah.
And that's the plan for the first like half of the year is really get that going, get more dashboards, more of that for some teams to use because they just want more people using the dashboards. To be honest, I think that they really want to make sure that we're more as a financial company. we're trying to be as analytically driven as possible. And I think there's been a lot of analytical work and presentations. There might be some to certain departments. It just I 100% don't know that part, but there isn't for my role. There's not a ton, to be honest. It's very laid back. Like I said, we have our meetings once a week to go over what we're gonna do, and like, hey, you're gonna take this work, you're gonna take that, you're gonna take that. Any questions? Let us all know, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
really, that's how mine is. So, like I said, it's a lot of just reporting, a lot of just analytics, just dashboards constantly. That seems to be the plan going into next year, and we'll just see how things go and see how that comes along. But yeah, from a presentation standpoint, nothing I really 100% know. I have not been put on to really any presentations yet. So.
Yeah, people just ask me all the time, do I have to do presentations to be a data analyst? And for me, like I have
Mm-hmm.
clients bring me their data, I analyze it, and then I meet with them regularly to say, here's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. So I have to be able to present and I have to be able to assess the learning needs because sometimes I have a client who they come to me because I'm the one doing the analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are not familiar with anything more than just a bar chart and a line chart. They really need me to do the analysis, and I need to
Mm-hmm.
bring it to their learning style and their learning needs and their kind of analytical maturity. Whereas other clients are super familiar, they've maybe even used Tableau themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
they just need me to build out this beautiful, really functional report for them. So that's a totally different presentation. So, how about communication? So, like, kind of in that same vein, but like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have to, well, will you have to communicate with a lot of different departments and be really good at like sending emails and knowing who to send emails
Mm-hmm.
to and the right things to say and like asking the right questions? Like, do you have to do that kind of communicating in your job? Will
Um,
you have to?
so what I've been seeing is yes, there's a lot of communication with different departments. Nothing too in depth. Um, I just think what it comes down to is if I run into a problem on a project, it's really going to have to come down to more me reaching out to people who have done work in those departments, like other analysts that have done work in that department. I really will not be doing too much communication with, let's say, do something for, I don't know, a status change team, do a dashboard for them. I won't talk to the team. I'm going to find someone who has done dashboards for them and do it, see how like they want it that way because the thing I'm learning in a big company is there's you almost have no idea who to actually reach out to sometimes. It's such a large company that there's so many teams that like it's really difficult to sometimes do that. Of the communication can be a little tough with that, just because you truly sometimes don't know who to reach out to. While at a smaller company, I feel like you'll get a decent idea of who to reach out to for what, and could make your life a little bit easier, get answers a little bit quicker. I mean, that's one thing. So even right now with how I have to handle my like my mailbox, like I'm doing a couple things of doing the reporting. I'm also handling like some our mailbox for our department as well. And just me communicating with so many different departments, I'm learning like what they usually do, what do they need. So I think that's good. But like I said, it's still like a learning thing of like what actually goes into each one. But yeah, for now, we're gonna be a lot of different departments with different needs. And I think I had a question for you of like, so I know you do more consulting. So like, how is that like going from like I know for me when I was looking, like I was approached with a consultant role at a fairly large financial company, and it was a great fit and everything. But I was not ready to consult and do something like that. So like, or like I was not ready. Like I'm a little plain Jane. I want to kind of do the same thing over and over, kind of get into a rhythm. While it seems like do you like that having almost like a new challenge each week, like new people? Do you like enjoy that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, to preface it, I got super duper lucky. I hear that a lot of consultants get super burned out. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
consultants they work hourly for their companies. They don't get benefits. They don't get salary. They don't get any
Yeah.
guarantee. I'm on salary. I have benefits, all that kind of stuff. Um, And my company has a really great culture. So
Mhm.
I have an amazing boss who's been super supportive. When I first came on, I didn't get any clients for over a month because he was just really on ramping me to make sure that I really knew what I was, not that I knew what I was doing, but like he was teaching
Mhm.
me. And he has office hours every day. So if I have any problems, I can come into the office hours. And if I don't have problems, I still come to office hours to like socialize with my team because I've got two other people on my team and then my boss. Um, so yeah, but I really love to learn. I really do like to keep things dynamic and moving. I don't like to do the same thing every day.
Mhm.
So ended up being a perfect fit for me. By the time I got my job, I kind of would have taken any job. But I would have
Mhm.
left. I would have left, but I
Mhm.
I just got so lucky. I've got an amazing job, and it is really cool because I've gotten to work with nonprofits, and I've gotten to work with, like I can't like stay, but like let's say like a light bulb company,
Yeah.
which is like totally
Mhm.
different than like a nonprofit for children or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's really cool because I get to meet such a diversity of people. I've had some
Mhm.
clients from other countries, so I get to like meet such a diversity of people and get to see into different companies and different backgrounds. But it is a challenge because it does make me a little anxious because every time I get a new client, I know that
Mhm.
um, we do a project kickoff call where we have to scope it. And it's different every single time because what database are we connecting to? Or is it an Excel
Mhm.
spreadsheet? And, what do you want out of this project? Are we just kind of helping you build something? You kind of already have an idea and we're just,
Mhm.
building it and then you're taking it over? Or am I building your product for you? And you have to relearn a person's analytical maturity. For each project, you've got a new person to
Mhm.
learn what they need and everything. And additionally, if most of the time when companies come, they consult out to a company like mine, they're probably in some kind of a transition phase. It's probably turbulent. There's
Mhm.
cleaning that needs to be done. And so a lot of times I'm not going to get a client that they're like, my data is super clean. Everything makes sense. And this is just going to be super easy and straightforward because then they would have done it themselves.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so it is a big challenge. And it
Mhm.
definitely, I like learn a lot from it. But I would not enjoy it probably if I had just been consulting on my own or if I didn't have like a really supportive boss and my team. Like the other day, I was yesterday on office hours, my coworker and my boss and I were all talking about one of their projects and just like asking like, how would you use this if this was your dashboard, how would you use it? And kind of bouncing
Mhm.
ideas off of each other and getting feedback. Um, so yeah, that was a long answer, but I really, really enjoy consulting
Mhm.
for those reasons, but I certainly would not enjoy consulting if it was like one of those places where you hear this a lot, where people are expected to work 60 hours a week at a minimum. And if you have a
Mhm.
deadline, then you just have to stay up and work on it and you get no support. And another funny thing about my job is that I get to see into other companies and their work
Mhm.
culture and their work-life balance. I'm lucky
Mhm.
enough to have a good work culture and everything, but
Mhm.
as I go on, I will get to see companies where they people have a great culture. Or like I didn't have this happen, but a friend of mine said that they were consulting with a company that they were like working on something and then they were like, "Oh, I haven't eaten all day." And their boss was like, "Well, don't we have a vending machine at the office? Like, go get a snack and then come back and keep working." And it was dinner time, and she hadn't eaten anything. And
Mhm.
this was the CEO of the company who was like, "Go get yourself a snack from the vending machine and then come back and keep working on this." So I didn't
Mhm.
experience that personally, but I will get to see kind of peeks into all these different company lives,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that your job is so very much in your lane. Like, I
Yeah, it is. It
imagine
really is, yeah.
as you get up
It
into
is.
more manager roles, you might be expected to do more cross-department communication and seeing who
Mhm.
needs what. Do you think so? If you move up the chain?
Um, yeah, I mean, that's something like I haven't really, I'll be really honest, I haven't thought that much about like the future yet, to be very, I'm still like, I'm so ingrained on like making sure that I'm doing the right things right now, especially because I know that this, the first, first start on your journey is really important. Like in my perspective, like, and that's why I tell
Mhm.
people all the time is like, yeah, you want to have a career in this, but if you don't pick the right company or the right job, like you might be back at square one 3 months from now. You know, I mean, like, and then you're gonna be right back in there. Resume's gonna look a little weird. Like, it's not gonna help. So I think like for me, it was like, okay, I want to be somewhere where it's not just an entry level job. It's I'm gonna be somewhere where I could see myself making some progress in the company. And just talking to some people, like as I was going through this process, I uh, connected with some people on LinkedIn who worked at my company, and I just saw even on their profile how they went through. And I just took, I was analyzing people's journeys. I was like, okay, well, seems like typically this is how long it takes if you're doing a good job. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, like I see that there is growth at this company. People are growing and people are staying. So I'm like, okay, well, this seems to be a place I want to be at. And I got that vibe through my interview. And I'm like, okay, so I haven't really thought about what's gonna happen next year or two or three or anything like that. And me as a person, I do like managing and leading people. Like I love it more than anything. I love teaching people. I guess I haven't thought about it too much because I'm still not confident 100% with my skills yet. Like once maybe 6 months from now, I'll feel way different. Like I'll be, you know what,
Mhm.
I want to do this now, I want to do that, which like I expect that, but for right now, I'm just very focused on like day to day. Make sure you're the best associate analyst you could be right now, and just do that. And then once like I think once I actually start doing more reporting and dashboards, and I get better, naturally I'll have the problem. They might bring other people on the team that I'll have to naturally teach them or stuff like that. And I think at those moments, that's when I'll start learning. Like, okay, I want to go now above an associate analyst. Okay, now I want that. Now I want that. So I think that as time goes on, as I get more confident in my work, definitely something in a managerial role will definitely be a huge interest of mine. Just seeing how a guy like Alpha Analyst went through his journey is literally like I feel I can, in a way like relate of his main focus was to, get into a Fortune 500 company and start on the bottom and work your way up a little bit. I kind of did the same thing. And within 3 years, he was into the manager role. Like, obviously, he's really good. He was good at what he did. But I'm like, okay, so if he could do that, like, I could do it. I feel like I could do that. So, yeah, that's a good question. I haven't really thought too much about like the future. I'm just so still happy and thrilled that I could have what I have right now, and I'm
Yeah,
just taking
I know the
that
feeling.
with a huge appreciation more than anything right now.
Yeah, what I always when I tell people when they talk to me about, their jobs, I get a lot of messages. For anybody who doesn't know this, I get at least 5 messages a day. I can't respond to all of them, but I do talk to a lot of people.
Mhm,
And I talk to people and I say, I think that when we start our job search, we have this idea that we'd like this amazing role that's perfect fit for us and
mhm,
everything. I got so lucky to have had that happen.
mhm,
However, but I kind of got to this point after a month of job searching and not getting any responses really. I
mhm,
kind of shifted gears. I was like, okay, I just need a job, like
mhm,
any job. Um, and I probably would have taken any job. I mean, I fortunately by the end of my job search, it kind of picked up steam. So then I kind of felt like, okay, I want to, take a good one.
mhm,
I did get a job offer right as I was getting this one that I turned down because I was thinking this one would come, and I
mhm,
was like, that would be way better. But if that hadn't happened, I would have just taken a job because I just knew that
mhm,
I wanted to be a data analyst. So what I tell people is that you need a job to get you into the
mhm,
industry. And after you put in 6 months, that definitely you have enough skills maybe to use that to go and get another
mhm,
entry level job if you hate your job, right?
mhm,
If you
mhm,
really hate it or they really pay you crap, then
mhm,
after 6 months, okay, you can maybe see how you can use that to transition to
mhm,
another job. Um, or once you come up on a year, I actually have a friend who's a software engineer, and he said that once he was coming up on a year in
mhm.
LinkedIn, it showed to recruiters that he had been in his job for a year. So he saw a significant uptick in the number of recruiters who was
Yeah,
reaching out
that
to
one
him.
year. Yeah,
So
that's
once you
smart.
hit
That's
that
good.
1 year mark at your
Mhm,
company, then you definitely have a lot of options. And I know people who say that they had a huge like they jumped jobs after a year
mhm,
and they started out like closer to 60K, and then they jumped all the way up towards 100K. And that's a
Mhm.
huge increase. And so
Yeah.
I tell people if you can stick it out, like don't beat yourself up if you don't get the perfect job. As much as we would love a job that gives us a
Mhm.
great foundation and we love it and that's what we're going for, don't beat yourself up if your first job isn't everything that you would hope it would be. Um, and just hopefully you can get enough out of that to go to the next one.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't have
I
that
yeah, that's
mentality now that
huge.
I love my job, but that's what
Yeah.
you have to take if you don't love your job.
That was me. I mean, I took this, it was, first of all, no matter what, it was a great role. It fit me very well, no matter what I took it. But I mean, for me, coming from teaching to this, I mean, right away it was a significant pay raise. So like, regardless, I was like, anything that any job gives me is be way more than what I'm getting as a teacher, which is great. And I'm the same mentality of like, truthfully, I want to be somewhere where I could grow. That's my truthful answer. Like, I want to be somewhere where I can learn and also grow there because I think that will make things easier. But also at the same time, you know, I also have a life to live and things have changed. Now I have the ability to now envision a different future where, as a teacher, my fiance and I are having a hard time imagining what our future could really be. But now
Mhm.
making this jump, you know, getting a house now, maybe stretch the
Yeah,
budget
you
a
can
little
afford it.
more, get a
Mhm.
little more bedrooms. You know what I mean? Like it's like things
Mhm.
change, and I'm like, okay, well now expectations have changed too. Like, okay, well, I at the same time, like anywhere else, I would tell anyone. I mean, if you're getting like a generic raise every year, like what are you doing? Like you just don't do that. Like you understand that the whole market for data analysis is huge in like that mid level area. You know what I mean? Like that. This free. This free.
Strange. I think it may be because I said it was scheduled for an hour. I was just gonna say that I
Oh,
make 3 to 4 times as much now than I
no.
did when I was a nanny. So, I
Mm-hmm.
completely feel that. But it is
Mm-hmm.
7 o'clock. I think that my
Yeah.
broadcast is just let me know that I had scheduled for an hour. This is my first time
No,
using
that's
this app for everybody.
I thought something happened. I was like, oh gosh, no, not like
Oh,
that.
no,
Not
we were
last
in the middle of a
week, but
sentence.
it's
Thanks
all
everybody
good.
for coming to our coffee chat live stream. I hope this was helpful. Thanks, Chris, for talking to me. This was
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Amy. Appreciate it.
interesting. Yeah, this was nice. I'm gonna end the broadcast. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
See ya.